and show an interactive demo, build out those features, and then eventually build it and eventually give it to the engineering team for them to build it.
So it's an interesting thing is that the end goal of product marketing is that product marketing should not be there. I think very risky to just go and build sort of deep investments in features of the product and not have a mechanism to sort of test it in a very fluid manner.
Their accounts, right? Which means they have a target, and marketing generally generates leads from X sources, and we do a lot of campaigns, right? So there's always this problem with even for demand and sales to come together as a team, and I've seen that consistently across other companies also.
Firm or authoritative at times in the way you take decisions. You have to be very collaborative. You have to be a good listener. You have to be somebody who can work across differences in a very amicable way. So, if you can build some of these personality types of being the glue.
So I have a follow-up question on that, which you mentioned, right? So how has it helped you? So I want to touch upon, before I kind of ask this question, I also want to touch upon one aspect of what you said about the whole function that you run, which constitutes product marketing, and also the demo team, which build out the initial, demo of a product, right? Based on the market scenario. So how important it is to not build features and ship it versus the approach that we take right now at Vymo, which is build a solution, build a sales deck, right? Show it to the customers or show it to the prospects, and show an interactive demo, build out those features, and then eventually build it and eventually give it to the engineering team for them to build it as and when the customer comes on board. Like how that process works? Can you explain that process a little? Have you seen any examples of, okay, I've built this and then showed the demo, and then eventually customer bought it, and then I probably gave it to the product team and the engineering team, then they build it? Because that's an approach which I also like, and everybody should follow, because you can't build like features and ship it, that the customer doesn't want it, right? So which means you have to build features that the customer wants, but then it's a very catch-22 also, that, hey, should I build it and then show it to them, or should I not build it and show it to them, or should I show like a Figma or an interactive demo or whatever, right? So how has it worked for you, and how has it saved product and engineering team as a whole their time? And I want to touch upon that aspect. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah. I think there are very practical reasons why you should have this sort of approach where you don't just build in isolation and then take it to market, but you have a way of sort of testing the market in small increments and then failing fast, right? And so you don't want to make deep investments into certain aspects of your product that sort of might not resonate with the market. And whatever you do in terms of discovery and your first few customers and so on, you might still be biased based on your first few customers. It might not be the case that is replicable across all customers. So you want to find a way to bring down the risk here. And I think the sort of product marketing function, sort of with the broader definition of product marketing that we were talking about, right, which also includes demos, industry solutions, etc., is the way to sort of bring down the risk. So we can take multiple examples. Let us say that we are trying to go into the lending market in India. We know that we have certain components of our product which solve strongly for the lending use case in India. So much confidence you have to have. If not, you don't even start the journey of going into that market. So there have to be certain strong components so there is a fit. But what are the details? What integrations are required? What sort of extensions to the product are required, and so on? It's something that you will discover as you go along. And so product marketing, not just product marketing in the way that sort of we have set it up at Vymo, but even product marketing in a more conventional way, where you're building the story, where you're building the solution story in the pitch deck, is a good way to take a hypothesis to the market. But the hypothesis is well thought out, well crafted, so that you can sort of present like a clean and coherent solution to the market, and then see what's happening, see how the market is responding to that, right? And then so that becomes a real-time input to the product team as well as to where they redouble their efforts. And there have been, multiple cases where we have had to completely change our product based on what was the feedback from the market. But we were doing this gradually. You go and learn from your first few sales cycles, your first few interactions, you hit market with a package solution. And then based on what working and what isn't, you come back to the product and you provide that input to them. So they change certain aspects or certain features of the product. And then so now your solution is strengthened with the improvements in product. And then you test that and then you go back. And at some point, the journey has to be such that it ends with product itself becoming what you demo. So the end goal, the thing about product marketing is that, it's a sort of it's an interesting thing is that the end goal of product marketing is that product marketing should not be there. It should recede almost, right, to the background, right? So because 10 years later, if you're still building demos and we're iterating and we're learning, that means that something is wrong somewhere. Either we haven't built fast enough or we have made multiple wrong bets in terms of our ICP, right? So if things go to plan and you have been able to build the product iteratively with signals from the market that product marketing is feeding for you, then 3, 4, 5 years in that journey, you have a strong enough product which has been built for that market category that is solving 80% of the problem statement for any customer in your ICP. Right? So at that point in time, product marketing steps back and then goes and solves other problems. So we have to make ourselves redundant, right? So that's how a company moves forward. So it's a sort of suicidal mission, but it's good for the company, right? And so that's how, it is, I think, very risky to just go and build sort of deep investments in features of the product and not have a mechanism to sort of test it in a very fluid manner. And this ability to test it comes from product marketing. So that's one. And the related aspect to that is that all organizations or most organizations go on a journey from selling features of the product, right, where they start from, like point solutions and features of the product which they sell. Some organizations solve for a very tangible point solution, which is also sort of very lucrative in terms of the potential business that they can generate for them, that they remain point solutions, which is great. So they don't need a huge product marketing team. So maybe one sharp product marketer is enough for them, right? But most organizations start with a few point solutions or features, and then they make a journey towards selling comprehensive solutions. And they move up the value chain. So, and for most organizations that are selling to enterprises, so this journey has to be made where you need to move from selling features to selling solutions. And so the product marketing function is a very central role in being able to make this shift from selling features to selling solutions. So for that, you need to understand the individual features well enough. And you also need to understand the end market well enough so that you can take each of these individual features, stitch it together in a meaningful way that solves for a very clear problem statement end to end for that market. So it's a very classic product marketing problem statement where you need to understand the industry, understand the product, build a story that bridges the two. So this transition from feature selling to solution selling is something that product marketing plays a very central role in. And so in Vymo right now, we have moved to the point where so for the last few years, we have already transitioned from feature selling to solution selling, right? Now we are moving to the point where the solutions are being built in product itself. So it's not just a product marketing packaging where we have solutions for various segments around the globe, but now now the product and the engineering team itself is building these solutions. So we're building industry products. And so that is the end goal, right? So from a solution selling standpoint for various market categories at Vymo, we have reached the end of that evolution. And the next phase of that evolution, which is also something that product marketing is very centrally placed to solve, is from solution selling, you really go to transformation selling, right? Let us say. So these are, terms which are picked up based on conversations with some with some of my friends and experts and peers in the industry. But then the next stage is where you become partners with the enterprise and say that, I mean, these enterprises, let us say, I mean, in Vymo's case, large banks globally, large insurers globally, they are starting to think about, okay, so what is the next, say, 5 to 10 years for me? And how can we present ourselves as a partner in their next 5 to 10 year journey, right? As not
Yeah.
just folks who need to be part of their journey and please keep me as part of your tech stack, not like that, but I mean, as partners on the table, saying that we can help you to reach that 5 to 10 year vision, where a lot of the aspects of product marketing, which we would have flexed our muscles in when we're doing the feature to solution selling, now will have to be taken in a much more forward looking direction. How can we sort of build the, I mean, next 5 years for insurance distribution, and why is Vymo part of that story? So, yeah, so product marketing then shifts to become that sort of a say
The
customer
posi-
expansion role as well, right? Yeah,
Got it. The positioning probably will change because the way you position earlier versus now. So you basically saying that, hey, we are a must have and you should
yeah,
probably use us and then see results like over a period of 5 to 10 years, because that's typically
correct,
what it takes for an enterprise to uh, maybe it takes a couple of years, but then for a longer
right,
benefit it takes maybe 4 or 5 years to see that result. There's adoption problem because you have field sales team using the product doesn't mean that
correct,
everybody will start using it. But then those are the
correct.
transformation that should happen for an enterprise. I understand.
Yeah.
So how do you manage the stakeholders? It's very difficult to. I mean, as a marketer, it's very difficult to have that regular cadence with sales, and there is that typical problem that sales want to solve for. They want to get leads
Hmm.
only from their accounts, right?
Hmm.
Which means they have a target, and marketing generally generates leads from X sources, and we do lot of campaigns, right? So there's always this problem with even for demand and sales to come together as a team, and I've seen that consistently across other companies also.
Yeah.
And if that is the case with demand and sales, I think product marketing and GTM at a very center, right? Which is like let's say you are the center of the whole company. So you have product engineering, you have marketing and sales. All of them, you have to coordinate with all of them. You have to work with all of them, and then you have to also, like I said, work with them, and that's at the same time deliver, because your OKRs is
Hmm.
also, let's say, post pipeline. So pipelines
Yeah.
influenced by marketing demand, and logos influenced by the sales. Then you have
Yeah.
the demos that you do, which has to eventually transfer. You have to transfer that knowledge to the product and then to the engineering team, which will eventually build the product, right? So, how do you
Hmm.
manage this to manage multiple stakeholders, to manage multiple teams?
Hmm.
Do you have a cadence? Do you have
Yeah.
like a process of how you manage this? Like, can you explain that a little bit?
I think this is a very important aspect of product marketing, that it is a very cross functional function. I mean, it is extremely, lot of the things that we do are completely interconnected with other functions. And I mean, it can be messy, and we need to find a way to bring some structure to the chaos. But I think, sort of going back also to your question about the profile or the hiring profile of product marketing, one of the
Hmm.
skill sets is being able to work across various dimensions of these differences. So, can you talk to an engineering person and also talk to a marketing person? So, can you talk to a sales and a product person? So, can you deal with multiple different personalities where you need to get things done? At the same time, you need to do things for them that will help them to succeed. How do you strike the balance? So it's also a personality type that you have to build, I think, which is not really spoken about as much when it comes to product marketing. In my experience, people look at the functional aspects,
Hmm.
but it's also a personality that you need to build. You can't be, or in my opinion, you can't be too sort of firm or authoritative at times in the way you take decisions. You have to be very collaborative. You have to be a good listener. You have to be somebody who can work across differences in a very amicable way. So, I mean, if you can build some of these personality types of being the glue, right, in a room, where a salesperson is talking in one type of way and a product person is talking a totally different language, can you be the glue? not just from a functional perspective, but from a personality perspective. So I think so that helps. And for some of the product marketers in my team as well who have done well, so they have been able to be this sort of stitching together aspect from their personality. Right? So when it comes to all of these functions, so let's take two of these functions. Product. We need to work very closely with product. Product needs us to provide them tangible insights and direction as to what has to be the product roadmap, what is working, what is not, right? What is the market feedback? The customer's voice has to come back to the product in a very sort of real-time manner or as close to real-time as possible. So that is what they need from the product. And they also like to see all the things that they're working on being packaged and presented beautifully. So with product, you do need to have a process in place, and this process will emerge over a period of time. But I think typically so if you have product marketers tagged to various product managers for various aspects of the product, make sure that you're working very closely together from the point of ideation itself. So don't bring in the product marketers once a product has been fully designed and built and then ask them to package it, but have a regular cadence with the product managers where we are thinking about the various things that they're building. So it's not just about taking a particular product to market and the various aspects of go to market, but have a regular, it could be weekly, fortnightly, monthly based on the construct of your company, but have a way in which product marketers and product managers are just sitting together thinking about various aspects of what they need to build. So that sort of cadence is extremely important. And from that flows a lot of good things down the line. On the sales side, I think it starts from being able to add value to them. Before you can go and dictate what needs to be done, it might be a year, it might be even 2 years, but add value to them, help them close sales cycles. So product marketing has to be an enablement function first, help build pipeline, help close logos, build credibility, build trust, right? Earn trust. And then you go to them saying that, no, don't pitch this. No, don't position it this way, right? Position it this way. And so a lot of the first year or 2 years will be you doing whatever it takes to win sales cycles. So for sales, you are their support function who can build a pitch deck for them, who can build an ROI calculator for them, who can build a competitive battle card for them at speed, who can go to them saying, hey, I'm talking to the CIO. I need 5 reasons why they should buy you and not build it in-house. And what are the 5 reasons? And the 5 tangible reasons spoken in a language that will resonate with the CIO, that presented in a beautiful document, right, which can be shared. Do that, right? So it is, so while you can have all of the theories that I spoke about, say the first part of the conversation where we said that we build this ideal GTM positioning, like this beautiful GTM kit, which has product marketing components, which has the demos, integrations all plugged in. The reality is that, you need to win deals. And so there will always be things that you need to do from a storytelling perspective and from a value articulation perspective, from a competitive positioning perspective that you need to help the sales teams to win. You do that, win logos, make the sales team successful. They will then come to you and say, look, I'm going into this market category. What is the positioning I will take? And then you give them a beautiful positioning, which they will take and go to market. Things will fall into place. So from my own sort of journey at Vymo, I can say that the first half of it was purely making sure that sales teams hit their numbers. And then the second part of it has been thinking more broadly about enablement. Programs for enablement and programs for what is the right pitch and positioning, elevator pitch for each region, and what is the first call deck that you use, what is the second presentation deck that you use. Building all of this cadence comes later. First is find a way in which you can support sales teams to win. And so that is very important, and that's how you build confidence. And then the collaboration aspects, the cadence, the process, right? What is the cadence that you have with the sales teams, weekly calls, monthly and quarterly cadences that you do with each region, all of that flows. Those are details and you can figure it out. But first, right, find a way that you add value and you are not just one more aspect that they have to deal with. So that's important.
Yeah, I think well said. I think in terms of make sales win initially, lot of
Yeah.
product marketers I see that they're not actually trying to do that. They think that it's a very sexy job that being a product marketer
Yeah.
is, and then I'll only they think that it's a very defined, well defined job. End of the day, initially it's not a well defined job, right? You have to listen to a lot of sales calls. You have to be on customer calls. You have to see the recordings.
Yeah.
You have to say you have to talk to them. You have to talk to sales, understand what they want, like how the market is responding. And then eventually,
Yeah.
like you said, it'll evolve, right? At some point of time, 1 or 2 years down the line, it'll evolve and you'll know a lot
Yeah.
more. And then you can think strategically and build it out, right? I think that
Yeah.
is probably the best way,
And also
for
tangibly, I mean,
me
when
as
you
well.
think about it tangibly, in Vymo's example, so if I take a few of the market segments where we have a very standardized, established sort of messaging demos and all that, and we as a product marketing team does not get involved in sales deals at all, and sales deals are closing. So it takes 2 years.
Yeah.
I mean, it may take a year to 2 years
Yeah.
to reach that point where we don't need to get involved. And like I said, the successful sort of measure of a product marketing function is that even without product marketing being involved in each and every sales cycles are closing. So you have to step back and make yourself unnecessary in a particular market segment, right? But to make yourself unnecessary, you have to spend those 2 years where you're really working very closely with the sales and marketing teams to help build pipeline, win deals, and you bring back all of those learnings into that message, and then you step back. So it is a lot of messy details. It's a lot of complex conversations with multiple different functions. It's a lot of actual sort of going down and building that you have to do. And while some people might think of it as, yes, I mean, we'll go and whiteboard a nice solution, and here is a competitive positioning, and we'll build a SWOT analysis, and here is a competitive battle card and a roadmap and so on. So that is maybe 25% of it. 75% of it is you sort of going into the trenches and building stuff and getting into competitive deals and winning. So you need to have the appetite and the ability to do that if you need to be successful, I think.
Yeah, nice. Thanks for that. So with this, I think we have come to the final section of the episode. So I have like 2-3 questions.
Okay.
So I want to know. See, one thing that I know about you, right, that you've built the best product marketing function across. I don't know, maybe India. I've probably seen a lot of product marketing functions, but Vymo, I consider
Thank
Vymo
you.
as one of the best in the business. So who do you follow? Where do you learn this from? Where do you get inspiration from? For the audience, that will probably help them. Like, what kind of a process do you have in terms of
Yeah.
upgrading yourself?
So from a
And I
product
would probably
marketing
start from
yeah. Sorry, please go ahead. Please
I
go
would probably start from who you follow. Like, what books do you read? Like, what is that process? I want to know the process. How you become what you become. How have
ahead.
you kind of scaled this function the last 5 years? And who basically was the inspiration? Like, who did you follow?
Yeah. So from a product marketing and a GTM perspective, I learned a lot from my boss at Aptus. So this was in the years sort of 2015 to 18. So his name is Gopkiran Rao, and he then went on to become the chief strategy and marketing officer at Mintical. And he was the head of our global vertical markets team. And a lot of what I learned in terms of product marketing being the bridge between, pre-sales and product and sales and marketing was with the 3.5 years or so that I spent with him. So that's where I learned some of these things. At that time, I didn't know it was even called product marketing and so on. I mean, I don't have a very structured sort of definition or a path to product marketing, like I mentioned. But sort of working with him, observing him, was my sort of first learning ground when it comes to product marketing. Post that, it's been a lot of just working with various people across functions and observing strengths that they bring and then applying it to my job. I don't really, so this might not be a good thing, but I don't really joined too many product marketing forums, or I'm not part of the product marketing sort of community plugged in. Maybe I should be, but I don't read books on product marketing and so on. But so on a conversation with our CEO Yamini, for example, I learn a lot. And in a conversation with say our engineering leader, I will learn a lot. And I go and talk to various people on various aspects of the business. I might be talking to somebody who is from a services company, and the way that they have crafted a very complex deal, a multi-million-dollar deal, which sort of brings together various sort of vendors and so on into a comprehensive solution. So I learned from that. So I have I'm sort of generally interested in various things, not really particularly product marketing or GTM. I don't really read books on product marketing or GTM. Once my day job is done, right? I read books on various other things, but stuff from all of these areas, I try to bring it together into what I do. And I don't have a formula, but I think, at the end of the day, going back to what I said, I need to push myself to understand product well enough, right? Which means I constantly am in conversations with the solutions folks, with the engineering folks, and so on. Don't get into this remote place with a bit of a distance from the engineering where you're sort of, because then you can get deluded a little bit, right? You need to know the realities of what's happening. So make sure you push yourself at whatever position you are. Don't go by titles and so on, right? Whatever position you are you going and working with the engineering team? And then secondly, constantly think of new ways of articulating the engineering complexity in a simple way. Like the pitch deck that I built, 4 years back, I'm thoroughly bored of it now and it looks bad to me. So each time I look at a new presentation that somebody does, we as product marketers sit and learn from that. Because at the end of the day, making a complex pitch deck is easy. Making a simple pitch deck, right? Where the simplicity showcases the depth underneath, right? So if you have a very still and deep lake, right? So the stillness of it is showcasing the depth underneath. So how do you take the complexity that is there and then be able to tell that in a very clear and simple manner? We learn by looking at how some beautiful websites are doing their stuff. We learn by looking at other sort of pitch decks, and sometimes we look at a partner presenting their pitch deck, and we learn from there as to what is working, what is not working. And I constantly am building with the team. Yes, I should delegate more, and I'm getting to the point where the team is now sort of well placed and say, okay, go build this, and they sort of build it beautifully. But I like to get into crafting stories in more and more of a simple and a clear manner. So that's how I upgrade myself, by talking to various people across sort of professions, across functions, and seeing how it applies to me. And nature of product marketing, being such that you can apply things from various functions. If you're an engineer, you might not be able to apply something if you talk to a marketer, right? But if you're a product marketer, I can talk to you and I can talk to somebody who's, say, a developer, and I'll be able to apply beautifully both concepts into what I'm doing. So I have that opportunity.
Correct.
So that's how I upgrade myself, I think, by just doing stuff and learning and listening. So,
got it. Your favorite book?
I read, I have very broad reading interest and I read a lot, but I will stay within the boundaries of marketing and product marketing. So there are two books that I really like. One is a book called Obviously Awesome. I think I might have spoken about it somewhere else as well. Which is by April Dunford, which talks so beautifully about positioning. And I learned a lot about the fact that the way you position yourself is the way you write your own destiny, right? We might feel very often when we are taking products to market that we are limited as to our destiny. Oh, okay. We have to only sell to this ICP, and our product is a particular type of product, and I have to just build my collaterals, my demos, and so on to take a particular type of product to a particular market segment, right? But what I realized by sort of looking at some of the examples in her book, and we can maybe provide a link to that in the podcast, is that the way you position yourself changes the way that you think about yourself and changes the way that market sort of thinks about yourself, and it fundamentally changes who your competition is, right? And by not doing anything, with the same product, just the way you position yourself can mean that you're playing in a very different playground. for example, we ourselves, we can choose to be a CRM, like say Vymo can choose to be a CRM and play in the battleground of a Salesforce or a Microsoft Dynamics. Or we can choose to be a sales engagement platform and choose to play in a Sales Loft and Groove and a Gong and so on. Or we can choose to create our own positioning, right? Which is, say, the distribution channel management platform, which plays in where you're pitted against various core solutions for insurance and banking. See, the product is the same.
Yeah.
Because we have components of all three. And you choose a smart positioning which plays to your strengths, in terms of being able to outcompete others in the competitive space that you have chosen, and which sort of presents a certain perception to the market which is conducive. You have the destiny. And she gave so many examples of organizations which moved from being category A to category B, right, by not really changing the core of what the product is, but by changing positioning. You move from being a data warehousing solution to being an analytics platform. And who buys you, what their budget is, who the competition are, completely changes, right? But broadly, the product being the same. So that's one book. And the second book was something that was given to me by my marketing counterpart, your friend as well, Roshan. So it's Alchemy by Rory Sutherland. Fascinating the ways in which we can, for all marketing folks, marketing, advertising, broadly folks who are, product marketing, we're all telling stories, right? At the end of the day, a brand marketing person is also telling a story, and a product marketing person is also telling a story. The product marketing person's story is more deeply grounded in the product and the industry context. But at the end of the day, you're telling a story, and the ways in which we humans sort of respond to stories, and the way in which we respond to brands, and in very irrational ways. So at times was a great learning experience. And you can't build for a rational buyer at times, right? You build for their irrational human element. And so that was a fascinating thing. Yeah. So those are two books I can recommend.
Yeah. So I have a writing here in front of me which is people buy with emotion, justify with logic. Right? So that is the
right. Yeah.
It's in front of me. So
exactly.
Yeah. So, okay.
And
so
I've had multiple conversations with you as well, right? With you, so many conversations with you on over lunch and coffees and so on, where so you have given examples about how people buy with emotion, and I think fascinating.
Yeah.
I learned from that as well. It goes into product marketing content, by the way. So you are one of the people I learned from.
I've seen that. Thanks a lot. I've seen that so many times that people just buy with emotion, justify with logic. It happened to me so many times that when I also kind of try to understand the way that I look at products and the way I buy, right? 90% of the time I buy with emotion and I then justify with logic. And that's my pattern all through, which is like 42 years of existence, right? I always bought with just an emotion. I go to a shop, I see something I like. There's no logic. You don't have money. Use a credit card to buy it, and then when you look at it, what is the logic behind buying using a credit card, right? So I think I've read a lot of books in terms of Ogilvy, right? So copy. Yeah. All the copies are mostly triggering an emotion, right? It's not about the features, never about the features. So one final question. I think we've come to the end of the episode. What is the best marketing advice or / advice that you've ever received?
I think the best advice that I've received from a marketing perspective is always be sort of linked to revenue in some way. And this is particularly, I think, important for product marketers to think about, because a lot of the things that we do, might seem at a step or two of a distance away from revenue. Right? You're building a pitch deck, you're building some sort of a part, as a product package, articulation for a particular feature, and so on. So it might seem like you're doing this in isolation, and what is the way to tie this back to tangibly what's working from a revenue perspective, but find ways. And I think so that has been a guidance. You might not always be able to do it in a very clean manner. Sometimes you will be able to. Like, for example, when you build package for a particular market segment, the sales team takes it to market and say closes 5 logos. So that's a tangible way in which you're tying revenue to what you're working on. But there will often be intangible ways as well, because you're working with brand, you're working with content team, you're working with demand gen team, you're working with various teams. But find a way to at least put some indicative sort of leading measures which lead to revenue. Find a way to constantly push yourself to think in that direction. And that's because we will often get pulled into requests from multiple people. Being a very generalist sort of function, we will get pulled into sales enablement requests. We'll get pulled into product team will sort of pull us into various things that they want us to do. Sales teams will ask for various things in each deal, pre-sales and so on. You will need to have some way of identifying where to prioritize your time. And while you will not be able to do this very scientifically, so there is no formula, sort of have a measure at the back of your mind that, I mean, is this leading to revenue in a tangible manner? If not, is there a way in which I can draw back from that and, I mean, do something that helps me to grow the company? At the end of the day, that's the main measure of success.
Got it. So I had another question. I think you basically answered that question also. What suggestions would you give to the upcoming product marketers, which is tie everything, tie all the activities that you do towards the revenue goal, right? I think that
I would say tie to revenue goal
is the best answer.
Yeah, and don't be too hung up on very narrow job definitions. Be flexible enough to sort of take on any project that's thrown your way. And by nature of being a product marketer, you are a generalist, right? So you will get pulled into things that might not seem like product marketing because you are centrally placed. So if you have to go and flex your finance muscles, do it. If you have to go and build an ROI calculator on an Excel sheet, do it. If you have to build a beautiful pitch deck one day, do it. And all of these usually will happen on the same day. So you will have a sort of identity question as to who am I and all that. Be comfortable with that identity question. And folks who are actually enjoy that sort of a fluid role will do well in product marketing. And I've seen in my own example and in my own team, folks who want a very fixed, what is my next 2 years? I myself don't know. And what is my next 2 years in terms of all the things that we will end up doing in product marketing? So, I mean, you will not be able to have that clear role definition, be sort of comfortable with that and constantly push yourself. I mean, if you're a product marketer, you will, going back to what I said, you will come from one of two directions, either from the marketing direction of product marketing or from the product direction of product. I mean, broadly speaking, constantly push yourself in the other direction. So that you will land somewhere close to the center, right, which is the sweet spot. So that's my broad guidance.
Yeah. Okay. So that was my last question. So with this, we've come to the end of the episode. I actually didn't want the episode to end, but we have almost more than allotted time here. But great learning, Varun. Thanks for taking time for joining us on the episode. Amazing learning on the product marketing aspect. I wanted to do this for a pretty long time now. Amazing. Thanks again for joining us.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Varun.
I mean, it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure, Karthik. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone, for watching this episode. Stay tuned for the next episode and please subscribe. Thank you.